Rumor of a student from Xi'an University shouting at a building in the middle of the night, "Repay our fees." Before the Asian Games in Hangzhou, Xi Jinping secretly visited Yiwu, and the security layout attracted attention. The property market is beyond remedy. A political crisis is bound to erupt. Huawei's humiliation of the United States results in serious consequences, immediate U.S. action taken. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Rumor of a student from Xi'an University shouting at a building in the middle of the night, "Repay our fees." Protests have once again erupted within Chinese universities, stemming from grievances related to the financial burdens imposed on students. Recent reports circulating on the internet have highlighted a tumultuous scene at Xi'an Information Vocational University, where a significant number of students took to the streets in the dead of night, vociferously demanding refunds and expressing their frustrations with the university's policies. The night in question witnessed a crescendo of shouting and cursing directed at the university principal within the dormitory buildings. Videos captured during the event depict brightly lit student dormitories, with some students venting their frustrations with slogans like "Repay our fees," "Give us our money back." The footage even shows individuals suggesting disruptive actions like throwing objects. In response, a police car can be seen cautiously approaching the agitated students, navigating the tense atmosphere. Overseas news has further fueled the controversy by releasing a video portraying Xi'an Information Vocational University as excessively profit-driven. At the heart of the students' discontent is the exorbitant cost of on-campus accommodation imposed by the university, which effectively compels students to reside within its confines. Other allegations include expensive hot water charges, subpar canteen food quality, and stringent restrictions on ordering takeout or leaving the campus. Furthermore, the university is reported to engage in cost-saving measures like daytime power outages. Most strikingly, students claim the absence of mobile phone signal coverage has made campus life exceedingly restrictive, prompting them to demand refunds vociferously. Concerning the late-night protests by Xi'an Information Vocational University students, numerous online commentators have expressed their outrage. They liken the institution to a concentration camp, asserting that students are treated like livestock, having to shoulder their own expenses. Some netizens foresee these events serving as a catalyst for a renewed white paper movement, with comments like "the second white paper movement is just around the corner and this could be the spark that ignites a major uprising in the future." Observers draw parallels between these conditions and what they perceive as a microcosm of the Chinese Communist Party's unified market, branding it a communist prison that extends its influence into various educational institutions, companies, factories, both large and small, creating a network of subjugation. Before the Asian Games in Hangzhou, Xi Jinping secretly visited Yiwu, and the security layout attracted attention. On September 20th, a leaked short video circulating on social platforms recently depicted Xi Jinping, accompanied by a group of officials, inspecting the hardware store area within Yiwu International Trade City. As Xi Jinping made his way through the area, enthusiastic onlookers greeted him with applause. Some individuals even jumped and waved to get his attention. However, this visit caused notable disruptions, including the closure of local roads, restrictions imposed on Tesla vehicles, and the locking of sewer covers along certain routes. Within the Yiwu urban area, traffic control measures were enacted on the roads during the morning hours. In another instance, a Tesla vehicle was halted by traffic authorities and compelled to execute a U-turn, reportedly because of a prohibition on Tesla vehicles entering the relevant area during Xi Jinping's inspection of Yiwu Trade City. Local reports also disclosed that residents in the affected areas were instructed not to open windows or venture outdoors. Amidst these developments, public discontent grew, with many residents unaware of the reasons behind these measures. It is rumored that he places great emphasis on ancient prophecies, fearing that he might face an assassination attempt foretold in these prophecies. Some netizens speculated that Xi's visit to cities like Yiwu might be connected to his attendance at the Asian Games opening ceremony in Hangzhou, scheduled to commence on September 23. As preparations for the event continue, it has been reported that Hangzhou has implemented heightened security measures. Local residents have disclosed that access to the Asian Games venue has been restricted, with increased security checks across the city. Even manhole covers in Hangzhou have been marked with security inspection labels. Public transportation users should anticipate bag searches, and individuals walking on the streets might also undergo security checks. A total of 56 individual tickets have been made available for both domestic and international spectators, with ticket prices ranging from 20 yuan to 1,000 yuan, $2.75 to $137. Notably, most of these tickets have already been sold online. As of the latest information, the official list of dignitaries set to attend the Asian Games opening ceremony has not yet been disclosed. The property market is beyond remedy. A political crisis is bound to erupt. The real estate crisis in China is escalating into a comprehensive financial crisis, with several Chinese financial institutions facing recent troubles, notably Zhongrong Trust and Evergrande Wealth. Evergrande Wealth, in particular, has come under official investigation by authorities due to its inability to meet principal and interest payments. The management of Evergrande Wealth is now under police control, and General Manager Du Liang faces legal actions. Evergrande Group appears to be facing a continuous series of challenges. Additionally, Evergrande Life Insurance has been taken over by the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission due to its debt repayment issues. Once considered too big to fail, can Evergrande now avoid failure? These economic and financial crises in China are expected to impact the Chinese Communist Party's ability to maintain control over society and could lead to high-level political crises. So, how close is China to a significant financial crisis at this point? Evergrande's inevitable collapse marks the start of China's second property market crash. During NTD TV's Elite Forum program, Mr. Guo Jun, the editor-in-chief of Epoch Times Chinese edition, stated that the reason Evergrande cannot collapse is that its debt is comparable to a country's. Companies with substantial debt can be tied to the crisis of the Chinese Communist regime. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, is currently trending towards a regime collapse, and given the overall situation, there is no way Evergrande can avoid collapsing. The Nanshan District Public Security Bureau in Shenzhen has issued a notice to conduct a criminal investigation into Evergrande Wealth, and Chairman Du Liang has been subjected to criminal measures. This marks the official beginning of the second wave of China's real estate company collapse. Furthermore, the term too big to fail implies that it has a significant impact. Once this company collapses, it will trigger a chain reaction. However, the current economic situation in China is extremely dire and deteriorating rapidly, and the government is likely powerless at this point. The current approach is probably to divide and deal with the situation separately. Evergrande Life Insurance was taken over because it has direct links with insurance companies and banks, causing a massive impact. The authorities should consider cutting off the funding chain first. On the other hand, Evergrande real estate is the largest segment and the biggest problem. They must repay debts and complete construction projects. Evergrande's total debt now exceeds 2.4 trillion Chinese yuan, approximately $328.7 billion, a situation that could rival a country's debt, even surpassing many countries. This includes bank loans, bonds, advance payments to construction companies and material suppliers, prepayments from homebuyers, and commissions owed to real estate agents. Currently, the government's openly stated policy is to prioritize completing construction projects for homebuyers who have already paid for their homes. But the current situation looks very challenging because Evergrande is short on funds, and banks are unwilling to lend. No other developers are willing to take over, and prices have plummeted significantly. Forcing it could also drag other businesses of Evergrande into the crisis. To prevent triggering a financial crisis and the domino effect, the CCP has initially cut off the insurance segment. The overall situation with Evergrande is just too dire. Mr. Go estimates that the authorities are already in despair, and the only option going forward may be bankruptcy liquidation, which could pose a significant danger to Chairman Xi'an and other top executives of Evergrande. No remedy for real estate, inevitable financial crisis looms. It's not limited to just Evergrande, even Country Garden has defaulted, not to mention Sunac, which is also grappling with a financial crisis. All three major players in China's real estate sector have gone bankrupt. Regarding this issue, Mr. Meng Jun, a Chinese entrepreneur living in the United States, speaking on the Elite Forum, made it clear that China's real estate market is now beyond salvation. For many years, China's economic growth has been heavily reliant on the real estate sector. The core of the real estate market is these wealth management firms, both their in-house entities and the funds they receive from various banks. Many of Evergrande's projects have been used as collateral for loans from different banks, including the four major state-owned banks and smaller institutions like Minsheng and China Merchants, among others. In the past, HNA Group faced a similar situation, with multiple mortgages turning 100 billion into 1 trillion. Now, Evergrande, with its extensive leveraging, has amassed a debt of 24 trillion, even surpassing HNA's scale. According to Wikipedia, HNA Group is a Chinese conglomerate headquartered in Haikou, Hainan. The company has interests in a wide range of industries, including aviation, real estate, financial services, tourism, logistics, and more. The corporation declared bankruptcy after debt restructuring efforts failed in 2021. Given the dire state of the real estate sector, decisive action is required. Failure to address the real estate issue, allowing it to spill over into the financial sector, will have severe consequences, primarily affecting the banking system and ultimately leading to the collapse of the entire financial system. We've already witnessed problems with Zhongrong Trust, a subsidiary of China Zhongxi Group, which has suspended repayments due to a lack of funds. Trusts, essentially functioning like banks, channel funds both from their own trusts and wealth management divisions and by leveraging properties they've developed as collateral to secure loans from banks. What is the loan-to-value ratio for real estate across all banks? Most banks primarily lend to the real estate sector because of its attractive interest rates, ranging from 8% to 12%. This situation is concerning. After years of real estate-driven economic growth, this sector has evolved into a malignant growth that has now burst into full view. This will inevitably result in the collapse of China's entire financial market. Therefore, at this juncture, failing to sever the financial link between real estate and finance will have unimaginable consequences. The CCP must prioritize safeguarding its large banks, state-owned enterprise, SOE, banks, and central SOEs. If these entities cannot be protected, the next financial industry crisis will be catastrophic and potentially ruinous. Mr. Xi'an, chief writer of the Epoch Times, also speaking on the Elite Forum, indicated that at this point, it may be practically impossible to sever this connection. As we know, Evergrande's debt stands at 2.4 trillion Chinese yuan, approximately $328.83 billion US, with at least 1.4 trillion yuan owed to banks, approximately $191.8 billion US. How can this debt be eliminated? Considering the recent 0.25% reserve requirement ratio cut, it roughly amounts to over 500 billion yuan, approximately $68.5 billion USD. However, with real estate companies owing 1 trillion in liquidity, how can this liquidity be offset? Despite the Chinese government injecting a substantial amount of money in recent years, there still isn't sufficient liquidity due to the real estate sector's insatiable appetite. Thus, the current situation suggests that irrespective of whether authorities take legal actions or not, this crisis appears poised to erupt comprehensively and very likely extend into the financial sector. The shocking 90 trillion yuan debt in the real estate industry sparks a political crisis. The real estate industry's debt stands at a staggering 90 trillion yuan, approximately 12.33 trillion US dollars, and this is setting the stage for a political crisis. Mr. Jinping, a political commentator, said that Evergrande alone has a debt of 2.4 trillion yuan, but the entire real estate sector owes an astronomical amount to the financial system. The total exposure of financial institutions, including banks, trusts, and bonds, to the real estate sector is a massive 60 trillion yuan. Within this, 39 trillion yuan represents personal housing loans, and with rising unemployment, many of these loans are at risk of default. Additionally, there are 21 trillion yuan in loans to real estate companies, many of which are struggling to repay due to the lack of property buyers. It's important to note that a substantial portion of these real estate companies' debt isn't owed to banks but is tied to the broader industry supply chain or prepayments made by home buyers. This situation makes the impending crisis even more severe, with the accumulated debt surpassing 90 trillion yuan. Mr. Jinping also emphasized that the real estate sector has strong ties to elite capital. Major real estate companies like Evergrande and Country Garden often have government connections or elite investments involved in their operations. Furthermore, trusts and wealth management firms in the financial system also have significant elite influence. In the event of a real estate and financial crisis, elites will likely seek to shift the burden away from themselves. They may resort to tactics such as burdening the general population, intensifying social conflicts, and increasing political risks. This crisis could lead to internal struggles among elites, with larger entities potentially exploiting smaller ones. Ultimately, it could trigger complex high-level power struggles within the Chinese government, including conflicts between Xi Jinping and the central government, between regional governments and the central authority, and among various factions within the ruling party. Thus, the financial issues are likely to escalate into broader social crises and eventually manifest as a full-blown political crisis. Humiliation of the United States results in serious consequences, immediate U.S. action taken. In a congressional hearing on September 19, U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo asserted that the United States does not have evidence to confirm Huawei's capability to mass-produce smartphones with advanced chips. Nevertheless, during her visit to China, Huawei unveiled its latest smartphones, the Mate 60 Pro, which utilize advanced 7nm chips and are gearing up for mass production. This development reportedly left her feeling uneasy. Commenting on this issue, Mr. Xi'an, a professor at the School of Business at the University of South Carolina, said to Sound of Hope on September 20 that, "It's a kind of humiliation for you, Sir Secretary Raimondo." He mentioned that the U.S. government has reportedly tasked over a dozen institutions with conducting extensive research on Huawei's smartphones to understand their manufacturing processes and potential use of U.S. technology. They are investigating whether Huawei is attempting to evade sanctions. This investigation is currently ongoing, and if it is discovered that Huawei is trying to bypass sanctions or if SMIC International is in violation of sanctions by providing any support, they will undoubtedly take action. He believes that initially, the CCP may have intended to use this as a way to rescue Huawei, but in reality, it has heightened the United States' vigilance. Ultimately, he thinks that the CCP's efforts may not yield the desired results. Tech Insights, a Canadian teardown evaluation firm, stated earlier this month that Huawei's new smartphones are equipped with the proprietary Kirin 9000's microchip, which reaches the 7nm level and is manufactured by China's largest chipmaker, SMIC International. Previously, SMIC International's most advanced chips could only reach the 14nm level. Apple's recent release, the iPhone 15 Pro, uses a 3nm chip. Veteran commentator Lan Shu said, "Many teardown companies around the world have bought Huawei's latest phone, the Mate 60 Pro, and dissected it for analysis. They found that SMIC technology used a 14nm lithography machine to produce a 7nm semiconductor chip. In 2020, TSMC tried this method, which is to use multiple exposures to produce a 7nm chip with a 14nm lithography machine. The disadvantage is that its success rate is relatively low, probably less than 20%. We don't know what the CCP's success rate is now. A low success rate means very high costs. If it's a 20% success rate, it's equivalent to needing to process 5 chips to successfully produce 1 chip. Once the cost is high, it's very difficult to mass produce. Huawei smartphones compete with Apple's, and they lose. There is no doubt that in terms of quantity, it cannot compete with Apple's smartphones. According to a BBC report, some Chinese internet users and CCP official media believe that the smartphone, with its embedded 7nm chip and high-orbit satellite communication capabilities, serves as evidence of Huawei's ability to overcome US sanctions. It also symbolizes the imminent future of China's semiconductor innovation and self-reliance. Physical stores in various regions have seen long queues, and the smartphones have sold out. Some analysts suggest that Huawei, previously severely affected by sanctions, has experienced a rebirth, injecting a dose of patriotic fervor into the currently declining Chinese economy. Although Chinese people still hold a special love for the iPhone, as evidenced by the iPhone 15 craze reaching its peak in China right after its launch, with a series of orders causing some e-commerce platforms like Taobao to be overloaded, Mr. Lan Shu believes that it is crucial for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Commerce Department to thoroughly understand Huawei's new smartphone, learn from past experiences, and avoid making the same mistake of underestimating the CCP in the future. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.